number of people.
All right, I think we are going to start now. So I'd like to greet good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to parallel session 3 of the A International Language and Language Teaching Conference in room 2. My name is Patrice Angeliatan, a 7th semester student of Sanata Dharma University as today's moderator in this room. I'll be in charge of this parallel session. And before we begin, please let me read the rules. 1. Each presentation will last for 15 minutes. 2. In this parallel session, there will be 3 presentations delivered in a row. 3. For the presenters, I will remind you if you have 5 minutes left via raise hand icon, followed by a notification in the chat box if you have 2 minutes left. So make sure you can notice the chat box and also the raise hand icon. And 4. We will have a question and answer session after all presenters have finished their presentations. 5. You may find other rules in the program book. Now, without any further ado, let's start our presentation. There are 3 presentations in this room. The first one is by Fauzul Advita, Sri Wahyuni, and Indrayani Winingsih. And the second one is by Marcus Budi Raharjo, Veronica Trepihatmini, and Christina Cristiani. And the third one is by Emanuela Christine Natalia Mau. And let's start with the first presentation. The title is English as a Foreign Language Reading Anxiety and its Effect to Reading Comprehension. It will be delivered by Fauzul Advita, Sri Wahyuni, and Indrayani Winingsih. For the presenters, you may have your time and good luck.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Patrice. Good morning, everyone. I'm Fauzul Advita with my friends Sri Wahyuni and my student Indrayani Winingsih. We are from Universitas Islam Riau Pekanbaru. So here Indrayani will present her thesis, the finding of her thesis, because she is my student. So I would like to give her an opportunity to deliver her research here. Thank you for the time, Indrayani, it's yours.
Still muted.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Fauzul. And Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I will say thank you for the time and the opportunity. And for the second time, let me introduce myself. My name is Indrayani Winingsih. I'm from Universitas Islam Riau. And in this time, I will present our research with the title is English as a Foreign Language, Reading Anxiety and its Effect to Reading Comprehension. Okay. In learning English, reading is one of 4 skills that needs to be developed both inside and outside classroom can also be mentioned as one of the most common ways to capture some information. According to Wardah 2014, reading is a fluent process in which readers consider information represented in a text and their previous knowledge to understand the text. This means that the process of reading, readers rely not only on the information they draw from the text, but also on readers to construct their prior knowledge in order to full understand the text. Although that many students are able to read English text, some of them don't understand what they are reading, so it causes the student feel anxious when they are reading. And according to Yun 2012, Anxiety is thought to be a normal human emotion that can be triggered by any internal or external change, uncertain situation, or feeling uncertainty. Anxiety in reading is a personal phobia associated with act of reading. Anxiety which makes the student harder to learn. The student feel anxious when they read some material from lecturer, book, and other resources. And thus it's important to overcome reading anxiety since it can impair their ability to learn. Moreover, um, anxiety has been shown to have a detrimental effect on learning and achievement. It can block learners from achieving learning objectives, and reading anxiety is a distinct phenomenon of foreign language anxiety in general, according to Muflis 2017. In other words, reading is often an oral performance, since the learners demonstrate their individual acts to communicate with the text. So we can conclude that the anxieties, worries, and phobias of the role of the reading are a major obstacle to reading success according to Jalongo and Hirsch 2010. Like talking, the student will feel nervous when they communicate with others. And for aim of this research aims to classify the levels of students' reading anxiety and to find the significant difference in reading comprehension between students with higher level of reading anxiety and lower level of reading anxiety. And for the relevance of this research, the first relevance of this research is Foreign Language Reading Anxiety 1999 by Yoshiko Saito, Elaine K. Horwich, Thomas J. Garza. And for the second relevance of this research is Foreign Language Reading Anxiety, investigating in English-speaking university students learning Chinese as a foreign language in the United States 2009 by Aiping Zhao. Okay, we're going to and the population of this research is the second semester of the second semester students at English Department of FKIP UIR in academic year 2020 and 2021. The sample in this research is on second semester class A and B that consists 31 and 28 students. And then we're going to the method. The level of students' reading anxiety was investigated by using questionnaire adapted from the research by Saito, Horwich, and Garza on foreign language reading anxiety and its association with general foreign language anxiety 1999. As for the level of anxiety categorization, the scales used for this research consisting of 20 response items range from 1 until 5 with a total score of 100. And after getting the score of each student, the data will be used as PSS to find descriptive statistic which contains mean, standard deviation, and percentage. And the descriptive statistic numbers will be used to determine the categorization of the reading anxiety level, which are divided into 3 levels of low, medium, and high anxiety. And this is the formula, the table of the formula to categorize the score of the reading anxiety levels. For low levels, the formula is mean plus standard deviation, and for the result, the score will be higher than this. And for the high level, the formula is mean minus standard deviation, and the result, the score is lower than this. And for the medium level, the result will be between low and high score. And to find the significant difference in reading comprehension between students with higher level of reading anxiety and lower level of reading anxiety, the researchers used SPSS version 26 with Mann-Whitney test. And then finally, we're going to the findings. And for the students' reading anxiety level, the researchers found that the mean of standard deviation were calculated as mean as 59, and for the standard deviation as 6. And according to given formula, we can get the student having score higher than 65 were categorized as low in science, and the students having scored lower than 53 were categorized as high in science, and the students having scored between 54 and until 64 were categorized as medium in science. And after getting the score to categorize the level of reading anxiety, this is the percentage of level of students reading anxiety. And the researchers found that 8 or 14 of students are categorized as low in science, and 39 or 66 of students are categorized as medium in science, and then 12 or 20% of students are categorized as high in science. And then after categorizing the level of reading anxiety, the researchers took 8 students who were categorized as low-level reading anxiety group and 12 students who were categorized as a high-level reading anxiety to be compared with students' reading comprehension. This is the table to compare the low-level reading anxiety group and the high-level reading anxiety group. And then this is the result of Mann-Whitney test of higher and lower reading anxiety. The result of the data showed that p-value is 0.011 with a level of significance 60,000 in Mann-Whitney test, and it means that it can be interpreted that there is a statistical significance. There is the statistical significant difference between reading comprehension score between student with a higher level of reading anxiety and student with a lower level of reading anxiety. By looking at this means of the data, it can also state that students with lower levels of reading anxiety have better reading comprehension. And last but not least, we're going to conclusion. And the result of this research shows that the majority of the students categorized as medium level of reading anxiety. The researchers found that 8 or 14% of students are categorized as low in science, and 39 or 66% of students are categorized as medium in science, and 12 or 20% of students are categorized as high in science. The researchers also found that students with lower level of anxiety perform better on their reading test than those with higher level of anxiety. The mean reading comprehension score between the two groups provided a significant gap for the writer to generalize their achievement, because p-value 0.011 was significantly lower than the u-value 16,000. The two groups had a statistically significant difference in reading comprehension score. Okay, thank you. I think that's all.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Indrayani Winningsih, for the very interesting and also inspiring presentation on reading anxiety and its effect to reading comprehension. And let's give applause for Ms. Indrayani Winningsih. And before we go to the next presentation, I would like to remind the participants, if you have a question for the presenters, you may shoot and write the question in the chat box with the format, name, affiliation, to whom the question is addressed to, then the question. And later, the presenters will answer it during the question and answer session. Or if later you want to ask the question directly to the presenters, it's also possible. Thank you. And now let's move to the second presentation. We have, the title is Journeying with the Youth, Challenges and Opportunities of KIP Students, Batch 2020. It will be delivered by Pak Markus Budi Raharjo, Veronica Tripihatmini, and Christina Cristiani. For the presenters, you may have your time and good luck.
Thank you. Let me share the screen first. Oh, is it visible?
Yes,
Is my
crystal clear.
voice good? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. And this is our pleasure with Bu Veronica Triprihatmini and Bu Christina Cristiani. We try to share what we have found related to the journeying with the youth, challenges and opportunities of FCAP students, batch 2020. So briefly, we will discuss about 5 major issues. The background of our research is the fact that university students of batch 2020 encountered unprecedented challenges because they finished their high schools without being in the school. And then they also joined the university without or never stepping on the university grounds. And they had to learn online, and unfortunately, no personal encounters to each other. They had no opportunities to enjoy the real campus life. So our question is, how good is their well-beings? And it is also important to share the characteristics of Sanata Dharma, because we are the only Jesuit university in Indonesia, and we must follow the common framework issued by the Jesuit. And the latest policy is called Universal Apostolic Preferences, with 4 major ideas. Yeah, the first is showing the way to God. It is a matter of spirituality. And the second one is walking with the excluded, because we really want to pay attention to those impoverished and those are not accepted by the society. And the third one is journeying with youth. This is related to the importance of paying attention to the youth aging 17 up to 23, 24. And then the last one is caring for our common home. This is related to the ecological concern. So this is a brief overview related to the review of literature. The first is certainly Ignatian pedagogy. We inherit 500 years of experience of conducting education. And one key issue in Ignatian pedagogy is critical self-reflection on assumptions. We realize that we are distorted, and then we learn how to be critical and reflective. And one key issue is cura personalis, serving, which served as an institutional culture here at Sanata Dharma. And beyond that, we also work on the growth mindsets. Pak Willy Renandia's perspective, drawing from grit, is exactly the idea of growth mindsets, because we believe that intelligence is highly malleable. You can change it and you can improve it. So academic successes have largely been influenced by such a basic attitude. And the third issue is well-beings. And although it is not directly connected to the well-beings of the students of undergraduate, but this is basically the importance of us to focus on the well-being. Let me quickly go to the next part. So our research methods is mixed by nature. We will combine, we have done the survey, and we intend to do interview and FGD later. So the online survey was done from June to August 2001, and it involved 149 participants from the FTTE, and all undergraduate study programs were included. So, and this is the general findings of our research. So in general, 20 to 20 students of Faculty of Teachers Training and Education, Sanata Dharma University, were able to navigate themselves. So pretty much they are able to manage their well-being. Yeah, and however, we need to pay attention to the biggest challenge, which is the subjective well-beings. What do they mean? And then let's go further with further elaboration. So I hope that it is evident. This the picture of the graphic. We call it jaring laba-laba, right? So we can see that time management and then self-health is the highest, and the lowest is subjective well-being, and also connectivity. Near future clarity is also high, and the red color is agree, means agree, the high degree, and the blue color is disagree. So you need to pay attention to the two things: subjective well-beings and also connectivity, because the blue color is very clear. Okay, so thank you, Patricia. So this is the big picture of our findings. Yeah, in terms of time use and housekeeping, yeah, you can see time use is 74% green, and also housekeeping. Yeah, and the second one from the top, 68%. So they were the strongest part. So the students felt that they were good at managing their time and maintaining their health. And second, it is interesting to find out that learning experiences and near future clarity is pretty moderate. You can see the learning experience is at the very top, 49%. And also the near future clarity is 50%. So this is interesting. And the connectivity was considered poor because this is the third from above, 41%. This is the green color, strongly agree. And then the poorest one, subjective well-being, were the lowest. So let's take a look of what our data suggests. Now, I would like to explain a brief more deeply related to the subjective well-beings, because this is the lowest here. You can see that there are 4 components here with regards to subjective well-beings. Are they comfortable at online learning? And the answer is, yeah, pretty much so, you know, the blue color. And then comfortable being asking questions to the lecturer. Yeah, students of FTTE said that pretty much so, you know. What about the internet access? This is one of the most challenging. The students found that the internet access is problematical. What about non-academic services? Well, this is pretty okay. Yeah. So although we have this online learning class, and although only limited amount of time to get education, formal education, but we certainly still serve the students pretty well. What about near future clarity? Pretty much okay here. Related to the near future clarity, students admit that they know what is needed for learning and knowing how to solve learning problems and self-managing to meet own needs. Yeah. What about connectivity? Connectivity is pretty much problematical, especially the red one here, knowing classmates. Yeah, so it means that many students of Sanata Dharma came from different parts of Indonesia. So we got 34 provinces all over Indonesia. So because there is no opportunity to meet each other, there is a big issue. Yeah. Healthkeeping, there is no issue. Yeah, pretty much. The problem seems to be the regular exercise. But in terms of sufficient food intakes and more prayerful, this is interesting. Yeah, we think that healthkeeping is not only health exercises, but also spiritual exercises as well. What is needed is longing for shared religious observance. Yeah, this is very interesting. And learning experiences, well, the most problem is enjoyment to learn. Yeah, because it is only 29%. They strongly agree, and 41% agree. But here, under learning experiences, we ask about whether expectations are met or not, and enjoyment to learn, self-care, and feedback provision. So I will certainly share the conclusions and recommendations here. We conclude that students of 2020 appear to be resilient. So resilience here refers to the flexibility. From the data, you can see that they are resilient. They can navigate their lives. They can manage their physical and spiritual parts of them. And then students were very good at housekeeping and time and use. Yeah. So students found that their subjective well-beings were at the lowest level. Now, this is very interesting because we need to hear more directly to them. We need to we will invite them to discuss and interview and also FGD. And the fourth one, learning experiences were not superb, but those were still okay. Meaning to say that Sanata Dharma has done a good job preparing lecturers to use LMS and other learning devices to allow new students to learn. And it's true that further investigations of us, listening to their own stories and comparing and contrasting with lecturers. So we need to do that. So that's from our group.
Yes, thank you so much, Pak Marcus, and also Ms. Tri, for the very smart and also very relatable presentation on the opportunities and also challenges of FKIP students batch 2020 that experience only online learning so far. Yeah. And let's give applause for the presenters. And before we go to the last presentation, I would like to remind the participants again, if you have a question for the presenters, you may shoot and write the question in the chat box with the format, name, affiliation, to whom the question is addressed to, then the question. And later, the presenters will answer it during the question and answer session. Or if later you want to ask the question directly to the presenters, it's also possible. Thank you. And let's proceed to the last presentation we have in this parallel session. The title is Creative Writing Class Using Graphic Narrative Memoir Project, and it will be delivered by Emanuela Christine Natalia Mau from Universitas Kristen Krida Wacana. For the presenter, you may have your time and good luck.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patrice. I would like to ask for the first question. Could you see my slide?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, I need to stop for a minute. Wait. Okay. Now can you see them?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, hopefully this will do. Okay, okay. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with this.
Yes, it's okay.
Help for waiting.
It's
for
processing right now.
Okay, now it's already right.
Yes, yes.
So the title of the paper actually is that findings that I found in my classroom, and I've been trying to use this for the past from batch 2020 up to now. So how to use graphic narrative memoir in creating students' learning engagement and enforcing students' resilient traits in disruptive era. And let me introduce myself one more time. I'm Emanuela Christine Natalia. I'm a lecturer in Universitas Kristen Krida Wacana, Jakarta, and English letter faculty. So what we know now is that every time you have a crisis time, then you come up with a good literary work such as that I present here, Fellowship of the Rings, and then Narnia. They are coming when the world is in crisis with the expanding of Nazi at that time. And then I wouldn't say that it could be maybe almost the same situation, but then what happened now that makes me on my background, that makes me fall apart on my background of study is the coming of this guy. And then this was actually not connected us in the same field anymore to make us, we cannot experience the face-to-face learning anymore. So that's why it's disrupted us from that. And then becoming on that, it makes a huge impact, which we have to choose online learning instead of face-to-face learning. And then we need to reconsider the Gen Z characters were born with the parents who are familiar with technology and felt comfortable in using it. And furthermore, it affects students' level of engagement when learning during online in behavior, cognitive, and emotions. And because of that, I also take a look at the previous study, how graphic narrative was used by Rosa in 2019. It is used as a tool to educate, raising awareness of young adults against trafficking, and then how the resilient pedagogy has a connection to that, and practical teaching strategies, and how SDT and resilient pedagogy is used to teach students in disruptive times. And then by that, I'm looking at the approach on behavior engagement, cognitive engagement, how the understanding of the depth and creativity work together with the emotional engagement, and then how this actually can be achieved by using the collaborative work and peer teachings. And that's the thing that I don't put much in my work here because it's going to be taking a longer time to explain that. So based on that, I tried to develop something like a Venn diagram to see the intersections of the SDT and the other theories, the SDT and actually the resilient pedagogy. So then we can see that actually the core is the engagement itself. And because of that, you can see the diagram over here then of what teacher choices as the external motivations, and then make the students have this motivation, which then enforce students' engagement, which then comes to students' learning success. Based on that, I have a qualitative research using surveys of the students who made the project on the open-ended questionnaires, and then looking at the data collections, text and reflection sheet, and now is trying to coding the students' interviews, and then it is followed by 25 out of 30 participants who took the course in 2020. And then the research question is, how is the graphic narrative memoir project used as a tool to create students' learning engagement and enforcing students' resilient traits in disruptive era? This is the course design. So it is actually based on technological approach because they were fully online. So I tried to put on synchronous and asynchronous in different time. We were talking in the LMS, and also we were talking on some other platforms such as Three-Siders, and then we tried to put input and brainstorming by using whiteboard.fi. And then so they have this flip methods class also where they have to look at the informations that we try to put in Wakelets. And then try to put them in practice in Zoom, of course, with the help of some applications. And then comes up with the project team of a COVID pandemic, and type is nonfiction crew, and then using writing technique of realism and musing by Judith, and then peer teaching, small group discussions, and lectures feedback for the project attitudes. And after that, this is the finding and the result of the students during the project making process. They have comes up with lots of range of emotion outlets. So they have these feelings when they're coming, and then surprisingly, when they finish with the project, they have different feelings, which actually coming to the more positive sides rather than negative. So most of the negative feelings that they're doing during the project making process were actually moved toward the more positive attitude on how they perceive life after the project is done. And then based on that, I propose claims like students felt they are able to visualize their problems and try to find best solutions for the problems. Students are able to label the emotional outlets and produce engaging literary works. And at the same time, students felt relief and showed more positive attitude toward life, thus become resilient because they understand their problems better through graphic narrative visualizations. And these are actually the question that I proposed, and then the feedback that I got is that student 1 is saying that learning new techniques is what he or she has done, but regarding writing and the memoir, and then feeling more relaxed about the course that it takes, and then also able to develop a story in a graphic memoir and doing the learning also. And then upon the resilience comments, the students are happy to be able to express the problem and then able to survive in facing COVID-19 and learning. And then of course, very stronger right now because then looking at the work gave at least the strength of a foundation of basic reason to survive in learning. Other comments are also coming from the other students that I would like to highlight that the students felt that complaining is not answering the problem. So instead it's better to do something and then able, because he or she has the experience, then she felt or he felt that whenever something comes that looks like this, she felt or he felt very positive and be able to overcome the crisis. These are the projects that students make. They were using clips, applications, and then also can use the augmented reality of real pictures. And then some were also using applications, a very easy one. And then the other one were actually very vivid. So they can actually put, he or she put the problem into printed version and then have been able to take a look at what the problems and then try to find the inner strength as well as willing. It's a very easy project to do because then it only took photo shoots and then change it into a character or cartoon ways by using applications. So thank you very much. That's the thing that I want to share today. I would like to stop the sharing. I'll return the screen back.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Emanuela Christine, for the very engaging and also inspiring presentation on the use of graphic narrative memoir project on creative writing class. And now it's time for the question and answer session. I will invite 3 questions, 1 participant, 1 question. You may use the raise hand feature on Zoom and directly ask the question to the presenters, or you may type your question on the chat box. Mention your name, affiliation, to whom the question is addressed to, then the question. So for the participants and also the presenters, is there any questions that you'd like to ask? All right, seems that we have one question from Pak Markus from Sanata Dharma University. It is for the third presenter, Ibu Emanuela Christine. Yes, so the question is, let me read the question for you. So he said that thanks for bringing the forward and the practice of graphic narrative memoir project. In completing the assignment, what kind of writing approach did you use? Thank you, Mr. Marcus, for the question, and I will give the time for Ibu Emanuela, who got asked for the question, to answer the question. The time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Marcus, for such a difficult questions. It was actually, I'm looking at Judith Barrington's models of writing part. So in the process, I was asking the students to read Pramoedya Anantatur and Rosihan Anwar. And at the same time, also, I asked them to practice the realism technique of writing. That's why that's the approach actually. While doing the memoir technique is of course involving musing. So whenever you have a memoir coming or a memory coming to, actually you cannot write it as real as it is, but you will have to practice the technique of musing, which is in between the reality and fiction. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ibu Emanuela. And I think there are Miss Henny and also Pak Markus. Yeah.
May I clarify a couple of things?
Yes.
Okay, Ibu Emanuela, my question is, did you allow the students to consult with the activity and with the project? And how is the revision completed?
Oh yeah, so the revision completed through several things, but so the first, I think, forgive me if I'm answering wrong. Answering it is not as the detail as you want, or then you can ask me later on. So when they start the project, they will have to have a talk, a peer teaching to them, to their friends first. So I call this activity waterhole activity. Well, in waterhole activity, everybody can jump in. So just like the replica of your lorong cinta in Sanata Dharma, we don't have lorong because we live in the city. So it's a very spacious. So we have only small place. So we use it, and we use some applications to create the similar situation. So they talk to their friends, and afterward, of course, they come back in a small group discussion. This is done within 6 months. So then yeah, it gives them time enough, and sometimes they will have to record. They will have to record what they discuss, and then they give it to me. And at that time, I have a time to do the process of teaching, and also in the same time I have this process, the recorded process, that I wanted to see whether they understand really the process of brainstorming of the idea, and then going on when they have a small group discussions, and they will have to present the ideas in the big group discussion, so that they have feedbacks coming from different ways. So they saw the drawbacks and they can move forward with that, and in the end that will go to me. In the end, will go to me.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Hope it answered your questions.
You did a very good job explaining it to me.
Thank you. Was it Ibu Henny?
All right. What about Bu Henny? You may ask.
Hello, Bu Emanuela.
Bu Henny,
yes.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So it's really interesting. I mean, your presentation here about using graphic narrative memoir project, it's really inspiring, because we know that both of us are interested in creative writing, right?
Right.
So
my passion.
So thank you for sharing. I have actually 2 questions. First one is because I'm really interested in your project. that you do with your students here. Would you please share a bit more? You have explained to Pak Marcus, actually, I got it that it's not an individual project, right? Is it a collaborative project?
Is individual and collaborative in the same time. So times there are some rubrics that I actually expanded. So I'm not just looking at on how they produce their story, because everybody is unique. So they have their own memory. So and then you need to, what I want them to do is that they need to share the memory with the others, but at the same time, when they were sharing, everybody who also not master, but actually know how to do a memoir writing. So everybody needs to know how to do memoir writing. I know, Bu Henny, this is, at first when I do this project, this is overwhelming. It's an overwhelming project because everybody needs to know the input on the core theory, and in the same time in the technique, and then in the same time when you put them from written memoir into graphic memoir,
yes.
It's I'm sorry to say, hell of a job. So I couldn't even imagine that I went through that, but there's nothing else that we can do at that moment because everybody was so packed of everything. So they have to learn how to do foregrounding and backgrounding technique in the same time as a core of memoir writing, as a core of graphic novels will have to do. And this is an American approach of immigrants, and I transpose them into Indonesian culture. Is taking a huge things. I hope that I answer your questions.
No, I will definitely contact you again later because I'm particularly interested in the project. So maybe we can share. Can I ask one more question?
Of course, Ibu, you are welcome if the time still allow. Yes.
Yes. Just one quick question. Okay.
Yes.
So if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned that using graphic narrative memoir project here can help students to kind of deal with the pandemic. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because I did a small research as well, but not using graphic narrative memoir project, but my project was using poems. Okay, so poetry and poem writing. And I found one at the beginning of the pandemic, especially, is the strong feeling of isolation that they, that they felt, and by using poems, they kind of having a channel to express their feelings and their anxieties and trying to make sense of the situation. Do you also find similar, similar? I'm curious how it works. Okay, so probably this graphic narrative or a memoir also serves as a channel for students to express their feelings and anxieties and worries and trying to make sense of the situation. What do you think, Bu Emanuela?
I do hope Ibu attend the other conference, which is in Iconesia, which I am actually explaining that. So this is actually another, so I conduct one research, but I put into several angles. So this one is more in the angles of teaching, while the others were more in the angles on the results. So actually that in that conference, I explained that how this graphic narrative serves in the use of mental catalyst.
Yes,
so
exactly.
As a health mental catalyst. So as in the case of student 19, Ibu Henny, student 19 was very depressed. She's supposed to get a professional help, and this has been going on for even before the COVID pandemic. So that's the situation. But then student 19 was also the same person who said that this project helped her a lot, because if you saw her work, the work shows how she has been isolated for a very long time. She said so in that project. If you read the comic the graphic, then you understand that she has a lot of symbols, lots of black colors, lots of place where she is pictured only alone, nobody else. And she said it in the word that she got so depressed. But then after she finished with the project, that's why it's between in the drawbacks, it's in the drawbacks, but also provide the discussion in the same time that I did not do the reflection right away. So the reflection and the reflection sheets and also the how do you say it? In the same time, it was just purpose, serve all the purpose gitu, Bu Henny. So in memoir, you have a theory where you actually have to remember all things, which is musing. And then in that time to also make my students understand exactly what's the meaning of memoir. So I give the reflection a year after. So after the year have finished, the person is not biased with the feeling anymore, and then try to think straightly what actually he or she has been writing. And that's how that person, that students 19, find out that she is stronger now rather than she was before.
Oh, okay. Awesome work, awesome project. Thank you for
very much.
sharing.
That's
That's a
okay.
wonderful one.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu.
Thank you, Bu Emanuela, for sharing.
Yeah.
All right,
you,
thank you,
moderator.
Emanuela, and also Miss Henny for the active discussion before. And here I have a question for Miss Indrayani, actually. So the question is the research done in the online learning setting or the offline one? And in your perspective, will there be or is there a specific difference between reading anxiety during online setting and offline setting? And thank you. Miss Indrayani.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And for the question, is the resistance in the online learning setting or offline? This research done in the online learning settings because of COVID pandemic. And in my perspective, in my perspective, there is a specific difference between reading anxiety during online setting and offline setting, because when we learning online, students more less experience in learning in reading in the class, and no
Because they haven't experienced the offline setting, they have more reading anxiety like that.
I think like that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Indrayani, for answering the question and my curiosity about that. Right. And we have another question from Vincencia Devina. It's from Sanata Dharma University for Mr. Marcus. So I wonder if there are any differences found in terms of the approach used in courses, especially for group works for 2020 students compared to 2018 and also 2019 students, considering that the later batches still had the chance to directly meet their peers. If the same approach is used, are there any significant discrepancies found in the learning results? Thank you, Ms. Vincencia, for the question, and I'll give the time for Mr. Marcus to answer the question.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Patrice. I'm here with Ibu Veronica Triprihatmini. Probably, do you want to say something, who?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
please.
you, Pak Marcos. So I want to clarify the question here. So the question here refers to, whether or not there is a different approach for the teaching and learning process from the batch 2020 and 2018 and 2019. Is that what you mean? Is it Ibu Ika?
Tia, yeah, Tia.
Ibu,
Mbak Tia.
sorry, Mbak Tia. Vincentia?
Yes, Miss. Sorry, my signal was a bit bad. Did you ask something?
Okay. Well, actually, our study concerned with students from batch 2020 only, because we considered that these particular students have never met their friends, their lecturers personally at campus. Meanwhile, students from the batch of 2018, 2019, they have ever met their friends. So actually, we focus on our study on this batch, trying to find out, what kind of challenges as well as opportunities do these students face. You see, and of course, this will be very different. I believe they will be very different, at least when they are, interacting with their friends. They have never met before for these the batch of 2020, and they come from many different places in Indonesia. Okay. I suppose because our study is conducted throughout the students from the FKIP, all the students have maybe more than 30 provinces, coming from 30 provinces. So Pak Marcos, you might want
thank
to
you.
continue with that.
Mbak Tia, so this condition is new to anyone, and we are at Sanata Dharma. All lecturers have been trained by PPIP to anticipate different kinds of learning, and especially we are trained to use more our LMS. And this is a unique approach from the university. And probably I cannot answer very clearly whether we have different approaches. Yeah, certainly. Online learning requires something different. Yeah, we rely mostly on the flipped learning instead of the regular classes before. So there must be some differences, but whether the discrepancies or not, we are not sure with that. We cannot claim that the results are different because our research doesn't go that far. We didn't compare and contrast of the impacts or the outcomes of different approaches. That's the best answer that we can share.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Marcos, for clarifying what I mean. Actually, I did not claim. Yeah, we cannot claim that the approach will be similar or different. But actually, what I wanted to say was that, in terms of students' interaction, for the students from batch 2018 and 19, they have ever met before offline and they've ever met in the classroom. But then when the learning process is moved into this kind of mode with the online learning, then probably at least for those who have ever met and then have ever been interacted before will, this is my own assumption actually, they will, interact much better because they've been familiar to one another. But for students of 2020, which is under our research, then this is very interesting because they have never met before personally, and they come from many different places. And actually we are curious to know more about our further findings about this. Thank you, Pak Marcos, for
You're very welcome.
All right, thank you, Miss Vincentia Devina. Actually, I was wondering about that question as well. And also thank you, Mr. Marcus and Mystery, for answering the question. And is there any question that the other participants want to ask? Still have 2 minutes.
May I?
Oh, yes, Miss.
Yeah, my question is to Mbak Indrayani. Mbak Indrayani, from the conclusion of your study, you mentioned that the majority of the students, which is about 66%, are categorized into, having medium level of reading anxiety, which is a very big number actually, 66%. What does it imply, in your opinion? What does it mean?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last?
So from the conclusion of your study, I found that you mentioned that the majority of the students, at least about 66%, having the medium level of anxiety, and also only 14 having low level of anxiety, and then 20 is having, high anxiety. Is that right? Okay, what does it mean? What does this fact tell you?
In this research, actually, I forget this result. I share the questionnaire in Google Form to the students, second semester students in UIR, and actually they answer, and after they answer, I calculate, and in this questionnaire has two positive and a negative statement, and in different score. In positive statement, a range from 1 until 5, and negative statement 5 until 1.
Excuse me, you might a bit misunderstood what I meant. Okay, I was talking about the result of your study. Only very few students having low anxiety, and it is reflected to the better understanding of the reading comprehension. Okay, students who have low anxiety, you mentioned that in your conclusion, that students who have low anxiety have better comprehension in the reading. But your finding shows that there are 60% of students having medium anxiety and 20% having high anxiety. What does this mean to you? How would you explain that? What does it tell you about this effect?
The effect.
The fact.
Oh, the fact. I'm sorry. The fact. I get this result because
what does this mean? What does this data tell you about the, about the students under your investigation? Sorry if my question is a bit hard, but okay. Well, I leave the time to the moderator because it's already.
I'm sorry, Miss Tri, and also Miss Indrayani, for interrupting discussion because the time is actually up. Yeah, I'm sorry. And yeah, thank you so much for the very active and also challenging discussion we have in this parallel session for the both presenters and also all the participants. And yes, that's the end of parallel session 3. And actually it's the last parallel session in this room, in room 2. So yeah, as I said, this is actually the last parallel session in this room. So if you would like to join the parallel session 4, you may try joining the other rooms provided. And after this, at 14 or 2 p.m., we'll proceed with our 5th keynote speech from Dr. Chosa Kastuhandani. And before you leave this room, I'd like to inform you that the exit ticket for the second day will be shared in the main room after our last keynote speaker session. So thank you for coming and enjoy the rest of the conference. See you and have a great lunch break. Thank you, everyone. You may leave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mbak Petri.
Thank you, Mbak Beatrice, Pak Markus, Mbak Lia, everyone, Mbak Indriani.
everybody. Right.
Thank you
Many. Yeah.
semuanya.